Hello and a very good evening to all who have joined us for this webinar. To begin with, I would like the viewers to know a little bit about Vidyadan Foundation. Vidyadan Foundation is a non-profit organization which works towards empowering underprivileged children, youth, and women through education so as to enable them realize their potential to the fullest and bring about sustainable change in their lives. It also inspires the young generation to work for the development of students living in the rural areas. As I speak, the members and volunteers are at work towards the goal of quality education. We are all we all know that India is hosting the G20 summit under its presidency this year. The purpose of C20, that is Civil 20 under the flagship of G20, is to function as a platform to bring forth civil society organizations' voices to the G20 leaders. To discuss policy gaps and suggest best practices in education and skill development domain, a number of discussions are being initiated. In order to help C20 enrich the policy suggestions, Vidyadan Foundation, a registered working group under C20, has organized the second webinar on education and digital transformation. Today, we are going to gain insights from the next generation for the new generation. This will support the government in developing policies and frameworks informed by ground realities. For the same, we have some budding young journalists and media students. I would like to begin by introducing Ms. Jain, Pivakar Jain. Pivakar Jain is a student of Christ University pursuing Masters in Media and Communication Studies. She has done her graduation in mass media. Jain is an experienced professional photographer, videographer who has worked with organizations and NGOs. She is passionate about photojournaling, writing stories for pictures, as well as writing as an art. So, a warm welcome to you, Jain. We have Mr. Kushagra, who is a detail-oriented, committed, enthusiastic, and rational budding journalist. Apart from his experience of working as a web desk intern, copywriter, content writer, and a voiceover artist, he bears a massive interest in reporting hardline stories. Kushagra is skilled in reporting, editing, and debating, and proficient in English and Hindi. He has done his BA honors in journalism from Delhi University and is currently pursuing his master's in media and communication with specialization in multimedia journalism. So warm welcome to you, Kushagra. We also have Ms. Mansi Chaturvedi. She hails from Kota and has completed her schooling there. She's a graduate in journalism and mass communication and is pursuing her master's in media and communication studies. Painting and classical dance plays an important role in her life, which is so nice to know. A warm welcome to you too, Mansi. And I am Shweta Batra, an educationalist and a counselor, content writer, and a teacher trainer. I've been a former principal, and I'm a project coordinator at Vidyadan Foundation. And I will be taking you through this session. So without wasting our time here and there, I would like to come dive straight into our conversations. And I would like to begin with Mr. Kushagra. So now Mr. Kushagra will be sharing with us on how we can attain universal foundational literacy and numeracy with reference to education and digital transformation, with reference to listening, speaking, that is language development, and basic numeracy and calculation. So I would want him to share as his insights, which from this generation I want so that they can be passed on to the new generation, and the new generation has a great platform to go ahead with. Yes, Kushagra, to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the warm welcome. I hope I'm perfectly audible. Right, so I'll move ahead and try to talk about foundational literacy and numeracy. This is also known as, popularly it's known as FLN, Foundation, Literacy and Numeracy. And first of all, we'll try to understand what it is, how it has come to being, because if I'm not wrong, when I was in my early days at school, we usually used to hear about numbers pertaining to simply literacy. But now the concept has widened. Now we're talking about literacy as well as numeracy. So I believe that is a wider concept, and we shall look into its basic definitions, into its understanding first, and then we'll move on to what has already been done, what needs to be done, and what are the problems attached to it. First of all, if we talk about foundational literacy and numeracy, two parts majorly included. First of all is the foundational literacy, which includes aspects such as phonics, vocabulary development, reading fluency and comprehension. Phonics basically is when I see a word, how do I pronounce it? It's usually used interchangeably with phonetics, but it's a larger term, and phonetics is a part of it. If we talk about vocabulary development, it basically means that if I see a word, can I form more words from it? For instance, if I see the word depend, can I make the word dependable from the word depend? So this is vocabulary development, where I can add more and more words into my vocabulary. Same goes for reading fluency and comprehension, which basically means that how fast or how early can I read, and how early can I understand what I'm reading. And this might seem very basic to our viewers, but they shall understand that this is also a challenge which we are facing right now. Similarly, if we talk about foundation numeracy, it basically includes aspects such as counting and number recognition. For instance, can you recognize the numbers which are on the screen? Similarly, number operations. Number operations are majorly for subtraction, addition, multiplication, and division. And lastly, measurement. Measurement in the sense, can you measure the units at place? Class 3 universally has been accepted as the inflection point. That means by class 3, it is understood that by class 3, every kid shall be able to have foundational literacy as well as foundational numeracy. Now, if we move on to the next point, we see a survey here. I won't be getting into it. It's an ASER 2022 survey. I'm not getting into numbers, but what I want to tell you about it, that we see a lot of such data every day, and every year such surveys happen, and we come out with flying colors that okay, a lot of work has been done, school dropout rates are decreasing, and a lot of kids are going to school. We have launched number of programs, and kids every day are learning something or the new, and the educational level of the country is increasing, maybe very steadily, but it is increasing. However, I would like to show you different numbers here. Here we'll see that while we talk a lot about the school dropout ratios, the school dropout numbers, or the amount of literacy that we also have these numbers. Children in standard 3 government or private schools able to read at standard 2 level. That data, that number has, instead of increasing, decreased by 7%. Similarly, children in standard 3 are able to do subtraction. That has also decreased by around 2.5%. Similarly, children in standard 5 across India who can do division, that has decreased. That means what I'm trying to establish here is, for our viewers, that although foundation literacy and foundational numeracy may seem a very simple issue, but it is a very complex one, and it usually has a lot of intricacies in it, and it is very important so that to focus on it, so that the next generation is not just literate, but also has the ideas of numeracy, and then they can build on to that knowledge. Because if you don't have the primary basic establishment ready, you won't be able to work further. So if you talk about the government initiative, government is doing enough. Nipun Bharat as a scheme has been launched in 2021, which deals with it, which falls under Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan. Nipun Bharat is aimed that by 2026-27, everyone by class 3 shall have foundational literacy and numeracy. However, now let's look into what are the pros of such policies and where are the points which we are lacking. If we talk about the pros first, we'll see that there are two concepts at hand which we are dealing with. One is learn to read, and the next is read to learn. Learn to read basically means that we shall be able to read. That is learn to read. That is what we are doing till class 3, class 4, class 5, where we learn how to read things, how to comprehend things, how to grasp whatever is put in front of us. However, later in our higher studies, or maybe in 10 plus 1, 10 plus 2, or maybe even in PG, what we're doing right now, we read so that we can learn about society. So in a way, it's a very systematic approach. If we see that, if we are aiming at FLN, we are having a very systematic approach. First, we do learn to read. Second, we have read to learn. So, second of all, it's helping in the reduction of school dropout rates. How? If you compare two students, I'm giving a very anecdotal argument, but still, I guess it makes sense. If you compare two students, one who has done their first, second, and third and know how to read and do basic calculations, they'll be more interested in class fourth or class fifth and whatever is being taught further. However, if a kid who does not know that is directly admitted into, say, a class fifth or a class sixth, they won't be able to do it. They won't be interested in it. It's a very anecdotal argument, but you understand how it plays out. So if you have FLN at place, policies for FLN at place, that means that your school dropout rates would considerably decrease, which are already decreasing in our country. So it would push further. Third of all, it's a very organized approach. I'm talking about the government initiative here. It's a very organized approach because you see, it's a 5-step process or 5-level process. The nation is included, the state is included, the district is included, block is included, and at the last level, the school is included. So it seems a very organized approach. However, there are multiple problems with it, and they shall be, looked into so that the state of education in our country can be improved. If we talk about the cons, first of all, is the idea of rote learning. We often hear this about the education system, that our education is basically rote learning, where we dump things into our brain and then we vomit it out on the answer sheet, but it does not add anything to our brains or to our personality, or we are not able to absorb it properly. So again, this FLN is doing that. If we are only talking about a very assessment based approach, which is the second con, wherein the assessment becomes a major pointer, and the assessment is the big deal which we are looking forward to, and not necessarily what the student or what the kid has learned, then it becomes a problem. Because you understand this, any school will not be willing to reduce their own numbers. They want the best results possible, and for that they would obviously focus on assessments. If they get 95% FLN results, it's great for them. So that basically means that if we focus on assessment, we are pushing rote learning. And the third point is lack of critical thinking skills. Why? Because we tend to believe that it's a parallel going on. As I said earlier, that read to learn and learn to read. It's a parallel going on, wherein in the earlier education you learn the basics, and in the later education you learn the critical thinking skills, or maybe you learn the critical thinking skills in life. That's a parallel going on, which we usually think. But I believe that it's not a parallel. It's something which has to be taught in the institution itself. So for that, we'll have to make FLN, that means foundational literacy and numeracy, more comprehensible, and it shall have multiple stages and multiple phases to it. Now, if you talk about the possible solutions, first of all, I would propose increase interaction. Now, increase interaction in the way the schools shall have multiple modes of interaction with the kids, because we are not talking about here when we talk about FLN, we are not talking about grown-up kids. We're talking about kids till class 3. Until then, we cannot expect them to understand anything and everything pertaining to education. They won't understand the importance of it until they attain an age. So it's very important to teach them in a way they understand it and they relate with it. That is why I say interactive ways of teaching would be very useful. Second of all, application of learned concept. Here again, I would like to give a weak anecdotal argument, but I hope it proves the point. So if I talk about the generation of my grandparents, most of them were not able to access schools. But if you talk about their grasp over their native language and the calculations that they could do, that was much quicker than what we could do, right? Why? Because they were using those concepts on a daily basis. That means if you teach a kid that 100 minus 20 is 80, they might learn it, they might grasp it, but they won't understand it until you give them a 100 rupee note and tell them you go and buy a 20 rupee thing. And then when the shopkeeper will give them 80 rupees, they'll be able to calculate, okay, 100 minus 20 is 80. So that grasp of the concept is very important, and that comes from application of the learned concepts. For that, we will have to change the way we assess the kids. So assessment ways have to be changed here. Third of all is obviously innovative ways of assessment, and lastly, it's educational games. What I propose here in educational games is basically, as a society, we have had this common knowledge or common sense. We have developed it over years. I don't want to talk about it, but the fact is that we have developed the idea. Games are something which are apart from studies, which may be even an obstacle to studies in some households. However, I suppose and I propose this idea that at a state level, such games shall be developed. And when I say such games shall be developed, I mean that they shall be used in interaction and assessment of the kids. So such games which we used to play as kids, we used to get CDs. If we include them into the assessment, into the curriculum, That means that the kids would be more involved into the process of learning, and also their assessment would become more, I would say, creative and interactive, instead of just being a pen and paper type assessment, which can be muddled with easily if the school wants or if the institutions want. This is my first set of solutions, and my second set of solutions are again community learning. So I'll again come back to the same example which I gave earlier. My grandparents generation or our grandparents generation knew way more about numeracy than we do. Why? They were not there in schools, they were not able to do that. Most of them were not able to access schools. However, they grew in a community, so a lot of community learning was involved here. And in that, I would say that such community learning centers shall be promoted again and put forward, where the community can come together and teach the kids. So what I propose here is that on a state level, teams, multiple teams shall be formed, which shall facilitate community learning centers and which shall learn community learning centers at a very basic district level. Because here we are not talking only about the urban centers. Urban centers can run because they have the facilities. The parents are, understanding enough. They'll do that. However, the problem lies in the rural background. And in that, it is very important that a state intervention shall be there. A state shall form multiple initiatives like this, make teams, multiple teams, who can visit these villages, these rural spaces on a weekly basis. For instance, a parent or a elder would not be available on a weekday. So every weekend, once or twice in a month, these community centers can be opened, wherein the kids can learn. At the same time, there are workshops for the elders also, so they can teach the kids at their own homes. Third of all, I would talk about peer-to-peer education, which I believe is very important, because the school system which we have grown up in has become a sort of, I would say, restrictive, because it has turned into a little authoritarian at times. There is a set pattern that has to be followed. However, if you want to teach kids in new ways, you will have to break it down. I'll talk about it later in the next part also. But here, what I propose is that peer-to-peer education shall be promoted, wherein elders from the same school shall come and teach the kids. Because in that case, the idea of critical thinking would be solved, because the kids won't be in a space where they have to ask questions from the teachers, which becomes difficult. They are asking questions or they are seeking answers from their own elders, from their own seniors, which is in a way a little easier than asking or seeking answers from your teachers. So that is there. And lastly, this is, I believe, a demand which has been put forward multiple times, that the basic infrastructure shall be improved. And for that, the amount of investment that we are doing, the government is doing, shall be improved. Currently, we invest around 3% of our global budget, of our national budget, I'm sorry. But I guess multiple reports have already been signed and said that we need at least 6%. So to develop such community learning centers, or to talk more about newer and creative ways of interaction and assessment, it's very important that our investment is increased, our infrastructure is on a better level. So for that, better investment is required, and that is what I propose. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Well, indeed, I think, Vidaga, I must congratulate you for the way you have taken us through the pointers that you wanted to put forward in a very organized, structured manner. So, kudos to you for that. And yes, you have you have made some noteworthy and some very significant contributions, which will be, accumulated together and put forward, I'm sure. And, you have given some real-time practical solutions, and if it does happen, it would be wonderful. Yes, so this is a very wonderful beginning of the session. To go on further with it in the same pace and tone, I would go on to Jane, and she'll be sharing with us as to how, through education and edtech, we can develop human values and character traits in students, with reference to being responsible, respectful, and the quality of forgiveness. So academics is one aspect, human values is definitely the very important aspect. So let's see how Jane can take us through all this.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Pibukor Jane, and as ma'am already mentioned, that I will be speaking on education, how education plays a role in shaping our human values and character traits. We know that education not only gives us knowledge, but also plays a huge role in shaping our values and character traits So a little bit of definition, or a little bit of background study is that the Human Values Foundation was started in 1995, which was also make available worldwide comprehensive theme programs from the age of 4 to 12 years. And but for example, we were also introduced moral values or value education as a subject from kindergarten. Not to forget that value education is of different types. And if we are privileged enough to start small, we know that it molds our cognitive development, emotional development, our moral development, our social development, and most importantly, our psychosocial development. Let us begin with home. So our values were basically started from home. It started from how, when we play with our friends, we have to be considerate and how we should be kind. And suppose if something was given to us, we should be grateful and show a sign of gratitude. So those were the baby steps that we had to take initially when we were growing up. But gradually, again, when I put this as how we were introduced value education as a subject, this went on and on till like basically till our 10th, till 12th grade at least. And then if we move on to our college era or our college stage, we know that that is where our passion, our career crisis, or our career management, our job choices come into the picture. And it's also the age where we are open to relationships, to friendships, and a lot of social engagement. So that is how value education plays a huge role in that stage. But then we also have the adult stage. This is where people maybe have gotten two jobs, or maybe some don't have jobs at all. And people who start working starts to have job exhaustion or maybe frustration. And for the ones who don't, starts to have maybe they start to question life choices. But in order to keep their mentality refreshed, value education workshops can come into hand to reset their mind into managing their dilemma better. Um, One thing that we often tend to overlook, or maybe we don't really pay heed, is student exchange programs. That is also yet another way of inculcating a spirit of kinship among students. Not only do students exchange programs, but it also helps in exploring an array of cultures, and it also helps in understanding the education system among different countries. As how it shapes character traits. You will keep hearing the word value education at this point because that's how they're interrelated with education. So it plays a huge role in how it shapes our responsibility, our respect, and our sign of forgiveness towards people. And an example of respect, avoid talking about some offensive topic amongst our peers, and then that is a sign of respect. And how we don't use foul language amongst each other, that's a sign of respect. And when it comes to forgiveness, we are open to reconciling after a certain conflict or a certain disagreement. And then we learn to forgive from past experiences or anything like that. And when it also comes to responsibility, we are assigned, like at a young age, depending on our age, we are assigned chores at home, be it washing the dishes, or maybe folding our blankets, or maybe taking care of our own pets. So those are very simple day-to-day examples of how values are inculcated in us. But if we move on to education technology, since that is where we are at in today, we can have a lot of interactive learning resources. Example, when we had a sudden shift into the world that just get into the online learning, we can have learning resources such as videos, simulations, and multimedia representations. And then we have online platforms and learning management systems. These platforms can hold digital content like the one that we're doing right now, and we can share perspectives and also reflect on the values. And the most enjoyable part of this is gamification. So we can create educational games and activities that focuses on value education. We can promote values. Example, in today's world, we have we have online gaming where we can team up with our friends and we can complete a mission. So this is how it promotes teamwork and also problem solving and also a lot of empathy. Because, for example, if a teammate maybe loses in a game and you have to continue in the game, that is a sign of empathy. You have to finish the mission for him or maybe for your teammate, so that you go ahead. And then, not to forget, we have virtual reality and augmented reality today. And these technologies provide immersive experiences that we can simulate real world experiences that helps us to understand what the consequences of our own actions. And then we also have online collaborations and global connections, we how we can connect with people from different backgrounds, different, and make it a diverse viewpoint. And to conclude this portion, the use of technology can have a very positive role in its own, because it increases engagement among students. And with the curiosity of our generation, we, even if we are not aware that we are learning, with the kind of intake that we do through through technology or through the platforms that we are being exposed to, we have a lot of retention of information. So and moving on, I will move on to another part now, and which are a few measures that we can take. These measures are very familiar, in fact, because we are practicing these measures, and some of them are being practiced, some of them are being neglected, and some of them uh, are to be prolonged in the future, so that for better development. So we have curriculum development, knowing that when we were in school, we are aware that every 3 years or maybe every 2 years we have a shift of courses. Like, it's never the same. It might be similar, but it's always it's always different. Now we have teacher trainings where we provide specialized training and professional development opportunities for teachers. And we have a holistic approach. So when it comes to holistic approach to value education, we even us being master students, we have holistic education as a subject. And I believe that through this, we are being, we are still in a stage where it's a never ending adventure for us to keep on inculcating or being introduced to various values as we go ahead in life. And the next one would be collaborative learning. Again, discussions, group discussions, classroom discussions, all of that, gaining perspectives and opinions and angles from different people amongst us. And then we also have the use of technology. At the moment, we are in this platform and we are connected from various places. We're not even in, we're not together, but this is how we are connected. And through this, we can incorporate interactive learning platforms. And the most important one here is assessment and evaluation. In my opinion, this is very important because, again, like I mentioned, we have a subject called holistic education. We don't only have it as a subject, but we also have an examinations for it. So through this, we can develop and measure the effectiveness of how much values, has been taken in, even after being fed all of this. And to conclude, we have partnerships and collaborations with organizations, NGOs. Example, right now we are interning and we are volunteering at Vidyadan. And yeah, that's about it. Ma'am, you're not audible.
I said thank you, Jane, for taking us through these points that you have put forward. And I think the common thing that which we had here, even Kushagra mentioned, and so did Jane, is about gaming and using them as teaching as well as for assessments. And I think somewhere it could, if you talk about assessment through gaming, I think the major stress that students undergo due to the pressure of assessments would be absolutely nullified when it would be through gaming assessment, especially because that would be a threat-free environment, And eventually that could be a very big way where students start loving to learn. And if you love to learn is when you are a good learner and when you go ahead and become a seeker or of knowledge, So yeah, this is a great time when sometimes the assessments are very difficult for students to face, and it has a huge impact on them psychologically too. And when we are talking about our values and our traits, I think projection and demonstration by the stakeholders is extremely important aspect,
Yes.
whether at home or at school or in your wherever society we are. So I think that is the biggest what you call role play that is there in front of us, because students are basically very good observers, and very good at mimicking b. So if you can make and mar a person's character through the observations that he is exposed to or the environment that he's been exposed to. So now we will have Mansi on board, who will be sharing with us some innovative solutions to attain equitable quality education. The very important core words are equitable, quality education, and also we focus a little bit more on the girl child. So over to you, Mansi.
So I'll be talking about promoting equitable quality education for girls, especially, and for boys and everyone. So the major points I have noted down here are technology-enabled learning, community involvement and partnership, gender-responsive curriculum, teacher training and support, safe and inclusive learning environment, scholarships addressing cultural and social barriers, flexible learning opportunities, data-driven approaches, improving school infrastructure, providing scholarships and financial support, and supporting girls' health. So, in my opinion, for uh, giving education, a quality education and an equitable education to girls, there are certain ways which we can uh, go through to bring them together. So like gender responsive curriculum, so both male and female, both the genders should be responsive, should be responsible for sending the girl child. And if we talk about the social and the cultural barriers, still in some parts of India we can see that girls are not sent to school and are forced to do household work or to get married for certain reasons, because the culture, ongoing culture since so many years or so many ages or so many generations are going like that, and that flow is still going like that only. There is no change in that. So for this barrier, we can, what we can do is we can conduct several campaigns, we can go with some policies, we can reach out to them in some or the other way to make them understand, to acknowledge them that how education plays an important role in their lives, and how they will be developed by getting the education, and why schooling, a quality education is necessary for their living also, for a proper living, for a good living also. And safe and inclusive learning environment. So we many times see that parents are afraid of sending their child to school because of the surroundings or something or the other, or some incidents have been happened to the school or to any of the institution. So the environment should be safe and inclusive, where like each and every student should be included in each and every activity. No one should be excluded from activities that on any of the basis, whatever the basis would be. So they should not be excluded, they should all be inclusive on every basis. And the mentorship and role models, mentorship, it totally depends on the teachers and the how teachers are teaching them, how teachers are behaving with them, how teachers are acting with them. So it depends that this is the give and take attitude, that how a teacher will give the behavior, the how will the teacher behave with the student, and the same way student will behave if there is a mutual understanding and there is a good communication between both of them. The quality education will be like given to the students coming to the school. And flexible learning opportunities, so the opportunity should not be uh, like they should not be fixed to a particular part of the society or a particular sector of the society, but they should be uh, available to all. They should it should be provided to all in all the ways, no matter what the gender, caste, race, color, whatever it is. It should not be biased on it, and it should focus only on the education, whether it is a girl or whether it is a boy. Technology enabled learning should be provided, because we are living in a generation where mobile phones, laptops, and other electronic devices plays an important role in our lives. So we need to tell them, we need to reach out to them, telling that through technology also you can have quality learning, you can gain knowledge by various ways. If you even come to school, and school also nowadays we have online classes, we have lectures, we have many things which are online and which are provided, the online materials, the notebooks and everything, whatever it is provided, so that if they are aware of the technology which they can have with themselves, they can attain, they can avail the use of. So it will be better that school should tell them that there is a technology enabled learning also in our schools. And community involvement and partnership, if we talk about community involvement and partnership, then there are various NGOs where various communities, various people, a bunch of people, a group of people which come together and help these kind of people who are not able to attain the quality education. They help in them in various way, by providing them funds, by providing them notebooks, by providing them books, or by providing them the basic knowledge that what their rights are, and how they can go to a school and avail their rights, that yeah, this my education is my right and I have to take it. And scholarship and financial support, we can see that many people are not sending their child school because of they lacking funds. Lacking in funds is a major drawback which we can see in this education system, because people lack in funds and they are not able to send their child to school. So by providing them some policies, scholarships, financial support, by providing them some funds, or a sort of free education also, which more oftenly we can see in some of the schools, but not every school is providing, but for a particular sector of a society which is not able to pay the fees, or is lacking in funds, we can give them the financial support to reach out to school, so that they can send their child to school, and their child should not be lacking in education, and the child should not go for the labor work, and not should get married in early age, which is the age of getting education and not of getting married. Also improving in infrastructure should be improved, like it should be more playful, and it should not be more of only of notebooks, but it should be of like playing some games, and having a co-curricular activities, and including more and more of activities which engage students in an interesting way, and not in like the education should not be boring, that a student should not want to come to school. They should come to school, and they should be interested in the education system with the institution or the schools are providing. And supporting girls health, if I talk about girls particularly, in rural areas and in some sectors of the society, in our country itself, we can see that the health of a girl is not being focused that much. Menstruation and cycle and whatever problems they face, there are several problems which the girl face with the health. So they are not focused on that. If they even get education about that thing, that yeah, you can do this for this problem, and they get solution for various things, that like if you are suffering from this problem, this is the thing, this is the solution. So there, this will be a great help to a girl child, that yeah, they are getting knowledge about their health also, that how they can cope up with their health, and how they can overcome whatever the issues or the problems they are facing with the girls health, and providing them uh, with the opportunities, and with equal opportunities, no matter what the problem they are facing, and with the resources. If a girl is lacking in funds, or the background of a girl is or the parents are not that much capable of providing her with any of the facility for the health, the school can provide them that also, for a better improvement of her physically also and mentally also. Because if a person is physically fit, the person is automatically mentally fit also. So the girl's child health should also be focused in school, so that they should not compromise on anything, on any basis, like the whether it is health, whether it is mental health, no matter what the circumstances is. They should want that we should go to school, and they should have a proper interest in coming to school. And they should have a playful environment around them. They should not have some bias attitude. Bias attitude should not be with them, because girl child are also an equal uh, s- they also deserve an equal education as to boys. There is no difference between girls and boys nowadays. So what boys can do, the girls can also do, but it's just that they are lacking in opportunity and lacking in knowledge, which we have to reach them out. And NGOs, government, and other communities and everything can help us out through this thing. And we can reach out to people, we can form groups, we can have campaigns, we can have some technology based, that yeah, yeah, these technology is very helpful to you, we can give knowledge to them about this thing. So this will be very helpful. If we talk about girl child, this all things will be very helpful for providing them the equitable opportunity for the education.
Thank you, Mansi, for your structured inputs. And I think if I could sum it up, what you are trying to lay emphasis is to have a student-centered approach, and also, building up awareness programs to, overcome the barriers that our society often is facing. And it's generally the lack of awareness that most of the time students are not given their platform for education. And also, I think to do all that, we need to establish a proper, well defined uh, structure, a support system, which could, wherever there is a lack or where there is something going weak, there should be a support system which can be built. And before things fall apart, there should be support system which reaches out for help and get things going. So yes, thank you for that, Mansi. And we like to move again back to Kushagra. And now, Kushagra, I request you to share with us the aspects that you think will help students to apply the acquired knowledge in real life situation pertaining to all skills, and particularly in to thinking skills. So on to you with this, Kushagra.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Must appreciate the fellow speakers. They have spoken really well. So now I'll move forward, and specifically my part would be revolving around a few key terms. For instance, critical thinking skills, logical reasoning, argumentation building, or whatever theory that you have learned, how to apply that into application. Basically, that theory to application part is very, very important, and we usually tend to move away from it. And I'll be talking about how we can do that. So first of all, we'll have to understand that how important critical thinking skills are, because we, most of us, usually understand what they are, but we're not able to understand the necessity of it, how pivotal they are in one's life. If I talk about as a generation, if we are able to build critical thinking skills, logical reasoning, or application based learning in the next generation, that means that the next 40 years, when the kids turn into the workforce of the country, that would be a glorious period for the nation, and that would be beneficial for at a global level also. So this is how impactful such things are, because each and every member, each and every kid who is today in the education pipeline, tomorrow would be a part of the society, and each and every decision that they take would be impacting the whole society. So it's a pretty butterfly effect or a ripple effect, whatever you call it, that kind of thing. And first of all, I would like to put forward the idea here that I certainly believe in the fact that debating or public speaking plays a very important role in a student's life. And if it's introduced at a very young and an early age, then the kid would be able to develop such critical thinking skills or logical reasoning skills very easily, because that's the basis of it. So that is where I say that kids should be introduced to the concepts of vocabulary, debating, the vocabulary for debating, the context and the premise very early. For an instance, I would give you the example. If there's a kid who knows and understands well the meaning of words like argumentation, like premise, like context, like inductive reasoning, like deductive reasoning, that means that if they understand all these concepts, there's a fair chance. I'm not saying that it would happen for sure, but there's a fair chance that they might use it in everyday decision making that they have. For instance, a very simple decision whether to buy a Lays or to buy a Kurkure, they will use their own brain, they will use their inductive skills or maybe the deductive skills, and they'll reach to a conclusion then. That is the level of reasoning that we wish to have in the next generation. And for that, it is very important to introduce this vocabulary. Just to emphasize on this point more, I was reading a research the other day. It's a little diverging from the topic, but it still proves the point what I'm trying to say. So if you look at that research particularly, that said that for a long time, women as a community did not have the vocabulary of sexual harassment. So a big chunk of women were not even able to put forward their emotions, because they were not able to understand what is happening to them. If a boss does something inappropriate to them at a office space, they don't have the vocabulary for it. That's how important vocabulary is. So if a lot of arguments build up every day, now and then, that kids will not be able to understand complex words, or they may not be able to understand complex concepts. But what I propose here is it's very important that we introduce it to them first, and we may dumb it down for them, but then again we'll have to introduce it, then only they'll be able to use it. This is why I say that such vocabulary shall be introduced to them earlier, because when I was in my debating club, I found that most of the students were not aware of this vocabulary, and had they been aware of this vocabulary, they would have a very structured approach as to how to take a decision in life, or as to how to take the next step. For instance, a lot of debating is based on whether a thing is more beneficial, or it has more losses. Now it's a very basic concept that we have, but until and unless we provide a vocabulary to the kids, we won't be able to do that. So first of all, my idea is to the inclusion of vocabulary of debating and context and premises and argumentation into the curriculum at a very early age. Second of all, I would like to introduce the topic of Socratic debating or Socratic question. Again, comes out of the same concept of debating, which I have said. So Socrates was the first of the earliest Western English philosophers. He never wrote anything. Whatever we found of him is from his disciples and whatever they wrote down from him. I guess most of you would be able to resonate with him, with his most famous thought, which says, one thing I know for sure is that I know nothing. Now we have to start from that level. We'll have to understand that if the kid knows Socratic debating, or if they are indulging in such practices, that means that they'll understand what they have to learn, and whatever is brought forward to them, they have to question, they have to analyze it, they have to understand what are the good points of it, what are the bad points of it, and if the good points overpower the bad points, because the world is not black and white, it's actually a gray shade. So we'll have to understand which is better, is the white more or is the black more, or things like that. Socratic debating basically talks about these questions only, where we say that anything and everything shall have a larger debatable question pertaining to that topic. Second of all, it also talks about how consensus shall be questioned. That means common knowledge shall be questioned. In a society, we have a long list of common knowledge. That means that we have a certain amount of common knowledge in our, or common sense in our society, and everyone believes in that without questioning it. Socrates said that we shall question, and this is what the kids shall be taught at a very young age, because if they are not taught these stuff, then they won't be able to understand the importance of it. This is where I say that Socratic debating or Socratic questioning or activities pertaining to it, it's not a very difficult job. You don't need much of a training there, you don't need much of gadgets there. All you need is get into a room, set up 10 chairs, give them a topic and let them discuss. Give them the idea that they can question each other, give them the idea they can question the consensus of the room, they can question the common knowledge of the room. Because we usually have this concept that you know uh, kids have a lot of curiosity before they go to school. They ask each and every question, but once they enter the formal institution, that idea of curiosity slowly and steadily tumbles down, which is a problem which we have to deal with. And if this problem is dealt with at a very young age and in an effective manner, then the idea of critical thinking skills will come out on their own, because the human beings are built on to think like that. So I believe that is another thing. Third of all, I would propose problem solving activities and puzzles. I guess both my fellow members have already pointed this thing out, and I would not take a lot of time, but then these puzzles and these activities shall be promoted. They can be promoted in the forms of gadgets, in the forms of digital new age games, because that's what kids resonate with most these days. So if you are including them, that means you can again get them keep the activities interacted, and keep the kids interested in it. So that way, problem solving situations, I would say that allow the kid to enter into the shoes of someone else and tell them to solve a problem. For instance, everyday problems. Give them a role, give them a character, and tell them that this person has to do this job. How to do it? That's the process. Now, this is not something which your theory would teach you. This is something which you would learn on your own. As I mentioned in my previous presentation, that until and unless you know that when you give a 100 rupee note to a shopkeeper and he gives you back 80 rupees, that 20 rupees have been spent. 80 minus 20 is equal to 80 minus 100 minus 20 is equal to 80. That you won't be able to learn until you get the feel of that note in your hand, that okay, 80 rupees are left and 20 rupees have been spent of the 100 rupee that my family members gave me. So that those kind of problem solving activities have to be introduced, wherein the kids get into the shoes of other people. Fourth of all, I would say, let's go back to the older idea of reading, because now reading has become, I would say, has become an obsolete activity which we don't do on a daily basis. I say that all the gadgets are necessary, all the gadgets will help us, and it's very pivotal, I would say. However, reading of that physical book which we have cannot be replaced. We cannot take away that book from the hands of the students and be like they'll learn everything on their own. No, they won't. So we'll have to make them sit down, read every day for half an hour. And I would promote this idea that uh, you know libraries as a basic institution shall be promoted, not only at the school level but also at the district level. Today we see that district level libraries are slowly and steadily vanishing. That means that the libraries are only limited to institutions. Does that mean that only students are supposed to read? Are the other people not supposed to read? Or have we entered a neoliberal market where we don't want community centers to reading? Library is what? It's a community center to reading. So that must be again promoted. Coming back to the school level point, I would say that it should be allotted a 30-minute time frame every day to read something, and at the end of the week they shall be asked about what they read. Again, one intricacy I would like to mention here is, which I'll be talking about later in my last point also, that the books that the kids read shall not be decided by the teachers. Because if you read the book which your teacher tells you, then again it's an authoritative section which has been set for you, a boundary which has been set for you, that you have to read about E is equal to mc square. But I want to read beyond that. I want to go beyond that and learn more about it. I want to maybe I'm more interested in literature. I want to learn about literature. The literature section is very limited. For an instance, I'm saying the science section is very heavy. I don't want to interact with science, I want to interact with literature. So in that 30-minute, I believe that I shall be allowed to do whatever I want to. that would not only build the idea of critical thinking skills, it would also set the student free and also develop their interest and taste at a very young age. A kid who has, read the classics at a very young age would be way better at logical reasoning, critical thinking, and application of learned concepts than a kid who has not read the classics. So they shall allow to discover their own readings. Like if I give an example, I would say, when we as a generation, I mean, when we enter the filmography of a director, what we do is we watch one movie, then we go ahead to the next movie, then we go ahead to the next movie, and then we discover that this director is actually, of this person makes, they make very, things which are very resonating with us. So this is what the kid should do at a very young age with books. If they get into reading a particular author, they shall continue reading about it. Maybe not an author, maybe a subject, but for that, first of all, community driven library shall again come into being, wherein not just students but everyone reads. It's a weekend activity for everyone to go and sit there and read. In the schools, it shall be made an allotted time period, 30 minutes, 40 minutes every day, and at the end of the week, students should be asked what you read this time, what was interesting in it, and let them answer. There's no right and wrong in it. Even if they're reading wrong, let them read so that they understand it later. The idea of reading shall be developed. Second of all, I would also say that lately we have seen that the research institutes have been decreasing. Like for instance, the amount of research, now I'm talking about higher education, the amount of research institutes and the importance that they had in the earlier times, say in a Nehruvian model, or before that, when when we were when the country was in a nascent stage, that importance and slowly and steadily been decreasing, where we see that recently a lot of research institutions have been merged into one, or maybe are run by a centralized force. I believe that this is not going to help. And again, research institutes shall be promoted and their autonomy shall be promoted, so that again, not even at the school level but at the higher level also, the idea of logical reasoning and critical thinking skills is promoted. Lastly, I would like to talk about, it's not a proposal, but then it's a set of ideas which have been put forward, and I would like my viewers to read more about it, maybe critique it, maybe like it, maybe support it. But then there's an author, philosopher named Paulo Freire, a Brazilian scholar, and he has specifically talked about it in his magnum opus book, which is known as The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and where he talks about how the oppression works not only at the societal level but also at the school level. This may sound exaggerated and a little amusing to a lot of viewers right now, but when you read into his work, you'll understand what he's trying to say. So what he's trying to actually put forward is that schools have, he only gave the term, I'm borrowing his term, schools have developed a banking system in the sense that the students have become passive people or passive banks, and the teachers are the ones with active knowledge. The teachers invest or deposit their knowledge into the passive students. Now, until unless that student is sitting on that chair and not asking any question, they won't be able to learn anything. They won't be able to ask the teacher, they won't be able to question the teacher. This is where the Socratic debating I talked about comes into picture. They have to get the idea that whatever the teacher is teaching also comes from a concept, from a context that the teacher has been, the experiences that they have. Now, if you want to learn more, you will have to start questioning them in totality, their ideas in totality. That is very important. That is what Paulo Freire talks about. Again, he talks about several such concepts which says that the present idea looks like the teachers have turned into the oppressor and the students are turned into the oppressed, although teaching is a very noble cause. So to turn the system into a very stale system wherein the students are passive and the teachers are active, and the students are not able to question whatever is taught to them, and to return to a model where we can question anything and everything, and we can come out with the answer that whatever I know for sure is just that I know nothing, the Socratic idea. I think we'll have to work on such skills. Whatever ideas I've proposed will certainly help in promoting critical thinking skills, and I guess that would also help in logical reasoning and skill-based learning or application-based learning. That would be all. Thank you so much.
I think, Kushagra, congratulations to you, because I'm sure at this point in time, all of us have put on our thinking caps and are really trying to churn out whatever you have said in the manner that could be really applied in our society today to gain the maximum advantage that we could. And I believe that come what may, it is the thinking skills that takes you across every encounter that you make. And you have so gone to the depth of it. I don't know whether you had just studied it for now or you are aware of it, but I would really appreciate the way you have categorically gone across with it. And yes, and when you were talking about debating, it comes to my mind that when I mean, I was where I was as an educator, I had students who were coming from the first generation learners, and there was a very little of exposure at home when it comes even language development or anything like that. So I felt that debating, as you felt, was a very interesting idea to put forward so that children think differently. They are not only repeating what the teacher speaks. So, but when the first two attempts that we tried within the classroom really did not take off as much as I expected. So what we did is we put our students to become the mentors, and we told them, you will decide the topic, you will make the groups, you will bifurcate the teachers, and the teachers would have a debate. And then the students were the ones who saw, and every time when the teachers presented, the opponents presented their points, people like I or one other team member was focusing on drawing the child's attention as to what is the back end thought process that is going through, and how and why has this point been put forward, so that the child knows to begin to think. So it was in fact a very enjoyable experience. And then after, we started having this as a classroom debate period during our language development activity. As you said, that vocabulary is very important because everybody thinks. It is the lack of expression, and probably because the lack of confidence, probably because the language isn't developed. So yeah, that freedom of expressing in whatever manner you can. So what I believe is, when we say language development happens with listening, speaking, reading, and writing, I believe it happens with a T attached to every such letter. It's thinking, listening, thinking, speaking, thinking, reading, and thinking, writing. It's about that when the entire process comes on the table across, and we can this thing. Yes. Also, what you were saying is that allowing the children to decide what they want, and to make this a little more workable in our school section, I believe what could happen is the and yes, of course, every day 30 to 40 minutes is something which needs to be laid emphasis on, because generally it doesn't happen. So what can be done is probably, do you think that to begin with, the teacher, or it could the mentor could read out various short small books to the students, and then have a review as to what they enjoyed in the book, and somewhere gain an insight as to which child enjoys which kind of a book, because reading doesn't come so easily with to our students. It's a tough task. So if we have to shorten that process, probably this could be one of the ways it could be tweaked and brought forward. And yes, of course, it creates a lot of environment which becomes very rich in learning, because there's a lot of exchange happening, and apart from what they have been exposed to in the books, they learn to even have a parallel thinking process, which is their own, where we try to uh, bring out ideas. Rather, sometimes to begin with, we have to force out ideas from them, so that they think, I mean, whatever the character in the story has done, and how have you to do it differently. And there is, as you said, no right and wrong. So that's where the wheels start moving. So yes, that was again a very deep rooted thought process that you're put in, and I think we have quite a few takeaways. So, and with that, we'll move on to the last question, which would be going to the three of you, and any one of you is open to begin with. So when we are talking about, we have been speaking about education, and we have been speaking about how do we go about with the transforming the skills, how do we go about getting onto literacy and numeracy, and getting our character traits. But the basic idea is, we are a huge country, and even we are the global guru today. So we cannot be selfish and think about our country. We are definitely thinking at a global level. So we definitely, whatever we think, we need to have an outreach plan. And I would want you all to, you all are the people who are equipped with the best of the previous generation, best of today's generation, and you all are the ones who are in the making for the next generation. So what would that be, your inputs on to what would be the outreach program that one would like to put forward, so that all that we said and spoke about can reach every child in our nation or even globally? So who would begin with? Is it the girls taking up, or is it Jane, Mansi, Shagra?
I'll take this up first.
Okay, please, Jane, carry on.
Okay, so since this last question that's been given to us is about what are the possibilities, or what are the the possible outreach programs, or maybe outreach implementations that we can make. I have a few lists of possibilities, or maybe potential programs that we can do, considering a few limitations, like taking into subject like where I'm from. I'm from Meghalaya, northeastern region, and I'm from Shillong. So to take Meghalaya as a subject at hand, uh, it has limited infrastructure that includes schools, classrooms, and a lot of resources, and then also a lack of trained teachers in the rural areas. And then also there's always language and cultural diversity, but also there's language barriers. We can't always that will always arise, even though Meghalaya is home to diverse ethnic communities. And then we have socioeconomic economic challenges that that speaks of poverty and lack of basic amenities, which are the basic needs that that the people need. And not to forget that we may want to inculcate a lot of these value education, or all of these values that we want to go ahead and introduced to these people, especially in the rural areas that we can't, that are always mostly a struggle or challenging for us. Not to forget, most people still have a traditional mindset where they're very deep rooted to the practices, and they're not aligned towards believing or thinking that these values that are being taught to them or being introduced to them are something that are believable or to be able to taken in by them. So these are the few limitations I like to say. But the outreach programs that I have in mind is obviously workshops and training sessions, and then not to forget partnering with NGOs or civil society organizations. And then I've also noticed these mobile van campaigns. I think we've all seen these mobile van campaigns where they wrap around with banners, and they shout out slogans, or maybe spread out awareness, and they're very attractive or very appealing to the eye, and mostly that catches attention to catches people's attention. So that's another way to draw people's attention. And then we have also there's this other one. It's called, it's the awards and recognition. So under this, where I come from, there's this thing that they do towards the end of the year, after all the final examinations, or after all of the excellencies, in school. Uh, People, kids, or maybe students, even very small kids who are in kindergarten, if they are excelling in, like, if they get an A plus, or maybe if they get distinctions in their report cards, they are being they are being rewarded by the locality or the region that they're from, and they're being given rewards for excellency. And I think mm, this kind of like make their peers or their friends or people around them feel like, feel competitive, and they're like, oh wow, if other people can, if my friend can do it, then so can I. So that's another way of promoting, of inculcating value education, like, um the sense of curiosity, or the want to know more. And then apart from that, we have mobile value educations units, like projectors, audiovisual and educational video screenings. Maybe we can do that in a locality or a region where we can put up, example, whenever we have the World Cup, there's always like a huge screen put in the middle of somewhere, right? Like where everybody is willing to watch. this, and not that they don't have a television at home, but they want to come, like, come together and like watch this. So it's the same thing with this. If we make educational video screenings like much more interactive and much more like very easy to watch, I'm sure like that could be another way. And then not to forget, we can have village gatherings and cultural events, and in these cultural events we can make the local leaders, or maybe people who leaders or local representatives who are familiar in the eye of the rural or the locals, right? So suppose I go to a rural area, and then I just go and stand and start speaking. I don't think people are gonna listen to me. You know what I mean? That I'll be an outsider for them, and they won't be too comfortable to listen, or maybe I won't be that convincing to them. But if someone from the local area starts speaking, or maybe start inculcating or sharing experiences or anything that has to do with, inculcating values or value education to them, they definitely be more convinced than I. Actually, the one thing that I want to emphasize on is the long-term engagement and follow-up. I feel like if we can implement these different workshops or awareness camps or anything, we can also sustain this impact by following up visits from time to time, and also mentoring programs and evaluating their progress. We can always start small from various areas that we target. So that's about it from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And now, who would be taking on this question next, or this point next?
So would
Mansi?
you like to go forward?
Yeah, I think Kushagra, she wants you to carry on, so you can just.
Okay, fine. No problem. So I believe that the idea of outreach is again coming from the idea of globalization, which I have some reservations with. But then I believe that the whole idea can be summed up with a few pointers which Jane also talked about towards the end of her dictum, which was about localization, the idea and the power of the local. So I believe if we work more towards the local part of it, then the outreach part of it works on its own. It's a very ripple kind of effect again, which I mentioned earlier. For an instance, if we are able to do something which draws the attention of the global world towards us, then it's a more organic way, I would say. A good example of it is the Delhi education system. When it happened, Operation Smile and all, everything happened. A lot of global leaders came and saw how it is working out. Then, all the politics aside, I must say that this is one organic way where we focus on the local part of it, where we focus on what we have and how we can work on that, and then we go on to maybe a more global part of it, where we talk about being the global guru or being the global leader, which also is very, very important. So I believe that part of is the first thing which we have to talk about. And second of all, I would say that a thing which we have not laid emphasis on until now, and by us I mean the whole global community as a whole, is that the Western philosophy and the Western ideas have been talked about a lot. But when it comes to the Eastern philosophy, it has not been. So that is one thing which we are rich in. And if we want to reach out to the world, if we want to reach out to the global community, that is one way we can do that. I believe that the word honest should be put emphasis on here. An honest effort shall be made towards reviving those Eastern philosophies, putting again those Eastern ideas which have been dead, because now we are living in the world of new imperialism, neoliberalism, and in such times it becomes very difficult to bring out your own originality, your own authority, your own ideas, your own concepts. So in that case, I would prefer that these Eastern philosophies and Eastern ideas shall be focused on, and that if we are able to, basically what we have to do is we have to reproduce these things into the new ideas and the new ways in which people read. So for instance, people now prefer articles, they prefer online materials. So if we are able to convert these ideas into something which can be accessed through digital technologies or through an online manner, that means it becomes more accessible. So that is one form of outreach program which shall be done. And then again, we have to look into this also, that while we are outreaching for other countries, we are not leaving our own people behind, and we are doing enough for the rural communities, because there is certainly a big gap right now between the urban scape and the rural scape. So filling that gap first, and maybe then thinking about the outreach program would be a better way. But then these things also need to be looked upon. And also I would prefer that the local, as Jane also mentioned, I would just like to borrow her point, that the NGOs and the civil societies become a very important point, wherein the government can do, but the government can do a very limited amount of effort. They have to collaborate with NGOs like Vidyadan and others, and so that they can bring out the real aspect, because these are the people who are actually deep rooted with the society, and at the same time they have a voice. That's the problem. Basically, government has the voice, but they are not deep rooted in the society. The people, are deep rooted in the society, but they don't have a voice. So this is the bridge which the NGOs, the part of the bridge that the NGOs and other such civil organizations will have to play, so that India can turn out to be a global guru in the field of education, or they can have some sense of outreach. So I believe these are my three basic ideas which shall be worked into. Thank you.
Yeah, when we were talking about an outreach program, my basic idea was to first reach it to the villages where it is very difficult to access education. And as you said that, we have to have a program where we bring in the NGOs, or we bring in various organizations, we bring in the community, because it is our age old saying that we need a village to bring up a child, a well developed child. So definitely it is not in the hands of a single person or anything. My idea was that we have wonderful, we do not have to look at anyone for knowledge, or we do not have, what we need to do is to reach it to every person in our nation. And this program would successfully reach out to many who are not privileged enough to gain education. And we have always been very sharing. And we have had our drives from our country where we have satisfied the needs of our people, as well as we have satisfied the needs of the countries abroad. So going with that, it takes, like, my idea was that yes, we have been talking about digitization uh, to reach out. Again, there is a element of cost effectiveness. So having cost effective devices, or creating this, how she said, they have a huge screen where they watch a match, so probably using such community spaces. Or if the child cannot travel to school, then the school should travel to a place where there are a few houses where people come together and there is some imparting of education or knowledge happening in a structured, or age appropriate, or at least to the level of what their despite their age bracket, there is some knowledge which is probably given as per their entry level. So yes, this is where I was looking for an outreach. And definitely, if the formula works in our country, it can be easily copy pasted and applied everywhere, because we are a huge country, and with the diversity that we have, I think everyone can definitely take advantage of it. So with that, we go on to Mansi. Mansi, what is that? Would you like to share on the outreach program that we could plan out for our country, and then which could be used for or utilized for?
So, ma'am, for developing a plan for an outreach program, I would like to say that we should first identify the target audience, that to whom we are planning to reach. What are the type of people, what are the type of the community, what is the type of the people around which we are planning to give the outreach program to them. So we should target them, because India being a diverse country, there are so many communities, and everyone, need of the communities are different. So targeting an audience, a particular audience for outreach program, for different outreach program, not a single one, is very mandatory. Because in some areas there can be a different need for the program, and some in some areas there can be a different need for a program. So for completing the needs and fulfilling the needs of the people of the communities, we first need to identify the target audience, that what we need to tell to those people, and what those people want from us, what they want to gain knowledge about from us, what they are lacking behind. So that should be the target audience, in my opinion. And then we should conduct a needs assessment, that what are their basic needs. As I said, that we should be identify the target audience. Then in my opinion, we should conduct a needs assessment also, that what are their needs, what are the basic needs, what they are lacking behind, what they want, and what they should have, so that they should be developed through our outreach program, whatever we are conducting. The third one I want to say will be monitor and evaluate. So we should monitor the needs or the people or whatever we are outreaching to, whatever a group of people or a community we are outreaching to. So we should monitor them, then evaluate them, and according to that, the evaluation, we should go forward for them, that what we should give and what they need from us. And the plan with the outreach program, which we plan, or whatever we go through, that should be sustained, that it should not be changing from in 1 year or in 2 years or in every few days, but it should be sustainable, that yeah, whatever is going we are planning to do, it is will be constant for a few times, until and unless the people will get to know the benefits of the outreach program. And providing a professional development, but in providing the professional development, more people from the NGOs or some community which are more educated and are more knowledgeable about certain things, about certain sectors or factors which people need to understand, should be indulged into it and reach out to people for providing them professional development, so that they can have their proper livelihood, they can have employment. They should not be labor that they are having the labor they are being a labor from generation to generation, but they can also be employed in a very good sector. So we can provide them the professional development, the skills we can provide, the we can give the skill development, that, like that, the technology, how to work on computers, how to work on laptops, and other we can give the make artist makeup looks and everything, that kind of classes to girls, to the female members and even the male members. So there should be a skill development, a professional development program. And for these we should develop partnership among the communities, NGOs with and NGOs should collaborate with different people and the government, so that they can come up together and we can give more development to the society by creating that outreach program.
Yes, Mansi, that was wonderful. I think it's the key to success is to understand needs, and then bring in collaboration of all the various sectors of the society, and kind of serve to the needs that are they required for the optimum progress and development of people at large. So that is again a wonderful insight that you have presented. It's quite interesting and very categorically presented. So and before we could end, I think we have an extra minute to go for each one of us. And this could be a question which, you all are all almost completing with your formal education. What is that one or two elements that you feel that probably you must have seen the youngsters, or could be the adolescent or the young ones or the little children or the toddlers, where there is some element that is missing, but which needs to be, there in them, or which they should work upon in themselves so as to gain success, not only in their jobs or work. I don't believe that education is just for job. It's to become an all-round well-developed individual, a responsible citizen. So what is that one or two things that you feel that every child should possess or should work hard to have it in within themselves? So anyone who's ready with the response can raise their hand. Yes, Kushagra.
Ma'am, I would again go back to the point which I mentioned in my presentation, the second one, critical thinking and logical reasoning, because there are a lot of forces at work before even we come into a level where we can understand what is impacting us. There are so many forces which are constantly pushing and pulling us. that we sometimes enter into a loop and we are not able to get out of it. And for that, what we need is a sense of originality, a sense of personality. And for that, we need a sense of critical thinking where we can critique what is put in front of us, when we can logically think that what side shall we take. It's very important. We have to take multiple sides. And as you said earlier, that yeah, education is not just about jobs and stuff. You have to be a better person with that. You have to make your own decisions, and for those decisions to be taken, you'll have to apply your own rationality to it. So I believe rationality, critical thinking, and such skills, which, because the masses are usually, the crowd is basically turned into masses, that they all believe in one idea, and they can be lured with a carrot in the hand and just walked around like a mass. So that idea of critical thinking, if developed at an early age, then that means that the masses can turn into multiple individuals. So that makes more impact as a society. So that's what I believe is lacking right now.
So I guess, if I'm not wrong, if we say, when we say these are skills develop, they cannot be taught, they cannot be fed. So when I say critical skills, when you say, I believe that a child should learn to start questioning and putting across the 7 W's, WH, that is the when, why, when, where, which, how, what. So when you start answering questions, asking these questions yourself and trying to seek answers, is when you start learning to critically analyze and then make a decision. So you basically, that's how you work about. So people who are listening, is best that when the child is curious, that's one element every individual or every toddler is born with. And as I think Kushagra mentioned very easily, that the questioning, the capacity of asking questions diminishes as a child starts going to school. So I think we should leave that light ignited within the child of curiosity, and there is where he can breed upon and develop his thinking skills. Wonderful. And now, who's next? Who raised their hands? Miss Mansi?
So, ma'am, according to me, children in a very young age, or an age where they are they can understand things well in a proper way, they should learn that hard work is a key to success, that we all know, but sometimes they also need to do smart work, that they have to perform that their task and their everything with smartness, so that the goal which they are aiming for, they should achieve them with more grace and more like we they should the goal should be more focused, and should be well developed, what they are aiming to achieve, that the goal should be properly achieved. If they will do the hard work, I understand the hard work is necessary, so if they will do hard work, they'll achieve only the goal. But if they'll do the smart work, they'll get more ideas, more uh, opinions and everything for working for that idea, and they might get some ideas out of the box for which they can work to aim for aiming for working on the aim they are having in their life. And also, ma'am, the in at the age which these children are, they should have a playful and a joyful methods of learning around them. Like, it should not be always a notebook and a paper and a pen with them, but it should be more of like the institution can conduct certain activities, like whatever they think that the students will get indulged into and they will be interested into, and they will take participate. Participation is very necessary in the institution, because if you will not participate in any of the activities, or in even in the classroom, so it will not be beneficial for you. So be getting benefits of these things, the student should be participating in every activity, and this institution should try that we should conduct such activities, such joyful, playful, and interactive, and full of knowledge activities at the same time, so that students get benefit of it, and they should be more participative.
Excellent. I think when I do, I learn better. So that's the experiential learning that you are talking about, where if they are given, that's a lifelong learning attitude that one creates, and he always retains the information or his experiences. Because when you have experiential learning, what happens is your at least 2 or 3 of your 5 sense organs are put to task, and that's where you assimilate from your environment much more than what you learn from when you are listening to someone or reading something. So yes, that's one thing. And I like that concept of, hard work and smart work. I think one main crucial element with that, if one starts doing that, is where he or she would definitely develop time management skills, because he or she has decided that he wants to work smart. And of course, I'm not expecting or uh, advocating any shortcuts to success for sure, but yes, it's always, there are two ways to go about a thing, and opting for the right manner with the to attain your goals, and then having the time to, the spare time to probably skill yourself further, is a wonderful way of looking at life and growing as a person. So now, yes, Jane, how about you? What would you like to add on to this?
I think the both of them have actually mentioned quite really outstanding points, because these are actually what kids of today are facing. So stitching both Kushagra's and Mansi's pointers, it is so true that when you start to get so comfortable in that loop, in that zone where you lack critical thinking and problem solving, when you get stuck in that loop, you become like a victim, and you just become so comfortable there, and there's no way out from there. So you tend to not be able to make any decisions from there. There's no decision making as well. So as a I mean, looking back to where my school days were, it was so difficult for me to even voice out to or to be vocal in class. So everything that was being fed to me, or maybe in my class, or back then, everything that was being fed is supposed to be taken. So I mean, this is an actual it's like a command or a demand. I don't know what to say, but it's like I just pray that these children of today, even if they're lacking these critical thinking and decision making and problem solving um uh, you know qualities, I really hope that they break through this. And we may have not been able to do that in an early age, but I really wish that they could. I really hope that they would be able to do this. And yeah, not to forget that we are, like, praising and glorifying technology today like anything, but at the same time we really have lacked interpersonal communication because of that. And I don't think children should start too early when it comes to this. Yes, we are given everything at the tip of our fingers today, but please, I mean, I just hope that they don't fall into a black hole of this technology that we are so comfortable in today. I just hope they still go out, they still play, they still kick a ball, or they still see the blue sky. I mean, that's all about it. Thank you.
Yes, I think I do agree with you, and I think if today or at any point in time, it could be 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years now, if you have to follow, be the follower of your parents, followers of your elders. And I think then it's when you really have something to do in life, where you leave a legacy, rather than having just followers on social media. It's better to leave a legacy where people up for generations to come follow you. So I think that is a better way of leaving on the note. Yes, Jane, you would like to add something, please?
Also,
Please
ma'am,
tell
there's
me.
another thing. I feel like I don't know how everyone else in my age group or in my generation feels like, but the kids of today or the children of today shouldn't really settle for what they're being commanded to do. Like, why is it always be a doctor, be an engineer, or just why is it only these categories? You're open to so many things more in today's world, and please find your calling or your passion or whatever you are passionate about at the earliest, and just don't get lost in the crowd, and just don't go blow wherever the wind blows, because it's going to be hard when it's too late, because it's so competitive in today's world. The world today is so competitive, and we don't even know where we are heading to be honest. So it's going to be difficult for them. So yeah, that's about it. Don't
No,
settle for doctors, engineers.
I can assure you, Jean, you're going to make a mark wherever you go for sure. And yes, there is definitely, that's a very important point to pick up, because, of course, there is an attitudinal change for sure. But yes, it hasn't yet reached to the level that we need it for a Basically, I believe if it's a child, if you have a child at home, irrespective of what age he belongs to, if it's my age or your age or even a toddler, the most important thing is to be a happy person. So if whatever you are
Yes.
doing in life, if it makes you happy, of course, morally, ethically, consciously, right? I think then it doesn't matter, because definitely you're bound to succeed. So yes, upskill yourself wherever we are. I mean, I tried today. I'm sure my elders are still working on upskilling themselves, and my young ones who are next to me are also upskilling themselves. So yeah, this is a journey which is a life, and it goes on. And I think we should live it, celebrating it the way it is. I can assure you that you all are doing a wonderful job where you are, and I'm sure that I'd be glad that I maybe a couple of years down the line, I'd be glad that I'd had the session with you, because you all have made a mark somewhere in your life. And with this note, I think I would like to come to the end of the session. Before we end, I would like to propose a vote of thanks, and I would like to thank Ms. Jane and Mr. Kushagra and Ms. Mansi for the progressive inputs that you have put in, and which would tomorrow probably become remarkable policies. You never know. And I would also like to thank the wonderful audience who have been probably watching us, and we appreciate you for the positive feedback that we have been receiving. I thank the entire backend team who have extended support for this seamless session. And last but not the least, I thank Vidyadan Foundation for taking up this wonderful initiative and giving me this opportunity to conduct this session. Thank you so much, and it was wonderful talking to you all. And I hope you all have had a great time, and it's been a process of learning. With this, I would end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.